Welcome to this evening's episode of Slave Food Conversations, where two African-American physicians explore the role of racism as a unique form of stress and the weaponization of food in the creation of health disparities in African-American communities, irrespective of income. They discover eating a whole food, plant-based diet in urban communities is not only possible, but is the key to eliminating health disparities. The month of March celebrates several important causes to this nation, such as National Nutrition Month, International Women's Month, and National Kidney Month, which was discussed in our previous episode. In honor of National Nutrition Month and International Women's Month, the Slave Food team introduces special guest, Dr. Ruby Lathon, to the conversation. Dr. Ruby Lathon, PhD, is a certified holistic nutritionist that educates others through nutrition programs, seminars, workshops, and trainings. Dr. Lathon believes that plant-based food provides the most effective medicine on earth. Dr. Lathon is a survivor of thyroid cancer and is living proof that the body can heal itself through faith in God, self-care, and healthy eating. This episode will focus on her work with school lunch programs and her mission to help you succeed in your health journey. The Slave Food team wants to thank you all for your support. Please continue to spread the word about the Slave Food Project and make sure to subscribe on our YouTube channel and like the episodes. Thank you and enjoy the show.
All right. Thank you, Danette. How are you? Dr. Lathon, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you. I am fabulous. Glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. Very nice having you. Remember you from Oakwood. So
yeah,
you are you are definitely I have to say, our most special guest because you're a fellow alumni.
Right. It's good to be among alumni.
That's
right. I wasn't for sure, but yeah, it looked like we were all there around the same time at historically Black college and university. So wonderful the work you're doing. And what's crazy is the fact that, you know, as Danette mentioned, we're celebrating International Women's Month this month. And I just understood that you went international on us. I got a little scared. My stress level started going up just a tad bit because I was wondering if you were going to make it back from your international travels.
Right. Yeah, I got to mark one of the things off my bucket list, which was Dubai, and it was beautiful. Weather was perfect, and it was a great practice of self-care, which was taking some time off, much needed time off to decompress and relax with friends, and so it was great.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah, we were chatting backstage, and I mentioned that you are undoubtedly getting me in a whole lot of trouble, and that I guess I'm going to now have to look into some travel, whereas before I was using every medical reason to hold off as much as possible.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm sure there are many excuses, but you probably have run out of them now.
I'm thinking so. So let's kick off this conversation. And, you know, I love doing like your top three. So hit me with your top three influential women in history. If you can meet any female figure in history, what would the top three be?
So I think, you know, three actually, I was like 3 in 1. It's the women of hidden figures.
Yes.
There's Mary Jackson and Dorothy Vaughan, and I think it's Katherine Johnson. They were, you know, those women, they were really pioneers. And having myself worked at NASA when I was finishing up my PhD and knowing how challenging that could be, I would love to talk to them about how that was to really kind of break those barriers then, and just, you know, just kind of bask in their knowledge and their brilliancy about that. And of course, you know, I'd love to talk to Oprah, of course. So,
yes,
of course.
So she's, you know, obviously a trailblazer as well. But those are definitely some women I'd be, honored to talk to, and really, I think I could get a lot of insight from.
Oh, that's incredible.
I
Yeah,
agree.
those are phenomenal women for sure, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. I mean, speaking of their trailblazing in terms of science and mathematics and what they did, you yourself, tell us about your background in terms of engineering and so forth.
Sure, sure. So I did my undergraduate at Oakwood in computer science, and then I went to the University of Alabama, where I did a master's and a PhD in engineering and operations research, industrial and systems engineering, and I minored in like artificial intelligence. And so,
Wow.
that's my background. Really enjoyed it while I was studying it, and moved out to New Mexico to work at a national defense laboratory right when I finished my PhD. So I went straight through school and then went there. And during school, as I mentioned, I worked at NASA and got a lot of great Marshall Space Flight Center, got a lot of good experience there. And then went to Sandia National Labs in New Mexico, which interestingly enough is the highest per capita in PhDs in the country.
Really?
That
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. So I was in good company there. Yeah, a lot of brilliant people there.
Very cool. So how has that helped you with your transition towards a whole food plant-based diet, and give us a little bit of that story, your personal journey of for you too as well.
Yeah, it's helped a lot. So it was back in 2007. I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. I was totally shocked by it because I thought I was living pretty healthy. So I wasn't expecting, even though I did the test, I wasn't expecting, I forgot I did it because I was just doing it because the doctor suggested it. So when I got the news and there was actual cancer, I was totally unprepared for that.
Mm.
Because I had just dismissed it as even a possibility. So I just immediately decided that I was going to look at natural treatment for it. I had just a really strong gut feeling that there was another way besides just taking out my thyroid and then having to be on medication. I just didn't want to do that. And so I just listened to my gut, Holy Spirit. It was loud and clear that there was another way. And I decided that I was just going to find what that way was and just start from scratch and research it out. And so that's what I did. I just started researching, as part of my job as a research engineer. That's what I do. Anybody who's done a PhD knows you are adept at doing research. So I just really dug in and looked at, what causes thyroid cancer and then how to heal it naturally. And so I just really came up with a whole nutrition plan, and everything was pointing toward plant-based nutrition. I was mostly vegetarian anyway, but I was eating a lot of processed food, a lot of dairy still. And so when I started reading more and more about, completely plant-based diets, I said, okay, I'm switching to that. I went to UG Pines like 3 weeks after the diagnosis just to dive in how to use food as medicine. Came
Tell us
back.
what that is for those who may not know what
Yeah,
UG
it
Pines
is
is.
a lifestyle treatment center that uses natural methods and modalities to really heal the body from things like using hydrotherapy, hyperbaric chamber, obviously nutrition and plant-based nutrition and supplements. So I wanted to learn how to use food as medicine, and that was my first real introduction to that. Was going there. And so then when I got back, I just built on that information, changed everything I was eating, like, total 180 of what I was doing, and really started eating extremely clean, unprocessed juicing, a lot of good supplements that I researched. And so I decided I was going to give myself a year to go on this journey of healing and then reevaluate what to do after that. And it's a long story, but long story short, after about the year was up, the tumor was still there. But again, Holy Spirit, gut instinct said, do another biopsy because it could have changed. And that's what I told the doctor, let's do that. And we biopsied every little nodule possible on my thyroid, and they were all benign. And so I knew that changes were happening because my thyroid shrunk to its normal size. and because there was goiter there, before, and I just took charge of the situation in terms of how I was going to go about it, because initially I was getting a lot of pressure to do this, and I was like, I'm just going to do it my way, and I'm going to trust God and trust the process, and I got the results that I wanted.
That's wonderful.
That's a powerful, powerful testimony. Let me say that this resonates very much for me. My mother's sister, someone I love very dearly, in May of last year, actually died of thyroid cancer. And
Wow.
She my mother passed from cancer back in 2005. So it was very, very painful. So it's a word of encouragement and hope to hear you say, you were able to dig in and do this, because I really don't want anyone else to go through, what she went through.
Right.
She had the best medical care. She was at the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida. Excellent medical care, but it was still, but it wasn't, I'm trying to say this without saying it wrong, but what you did was probably still more effective, is the way I'll say it, in
Absolutely.
that you use nature to help your body heal itself. So that's very powerful.
Well, and the one thing sorry, go ahead, please.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to add that, the one thing that I loved about, as I listened to your story and what you were saying, is that you did several things that people may not know that science and behavioral change really kind of elucidates, is the fact that you actually use a smart tool. You went in, not only did you research and you identified what your approach was going to be, meaning you were very specific in terms of like the vegetables, the fruits, the supplements, the water intake, things of that nature, assuming measurable amounts and accessibility, all those things reasonable, but you also made a timestamp. You say, okay, I'm going to give this a trial, as you weigh the pros and cons to say, where are the risks if I don't do it right now, maybe subconsciously or consciously you did that, and where are the benefits. And so you decide, I'm going to give this a chance, and I'm going to see how I respond. Right. And I'll go back. I'm not saying I'm going to get rid of traditional medicine. I'm saying I'm going to go back and reassess and see what this medicinal effect of my food and lifestyle is on my body. Because the crazy part is that, and I think I first heard this from William Lee, who wrote a wonderful book in terms of eat to beat disease, eat to beat cancer. And 40% of women by the age of 40 to 50 have pre-microscopic cancer cells, breast cancer cells. 50% of men by the time they're 50 to 60 have microscopic prostate cancer cells, but 100% of people by the time you're 70 have thyroid cancer cells, microscopic thyroid cancer cells. And a study that recently just came out right now speaks to just what you did about the benefits in cancer prevention and cardiovascular prevention, just came out within the past 2 weeks. So just wanted to add that into what you said. It's so powerful.
Absolutely. Yeah. Initially I was very impatient. I was like, this should be gone in 3 months tops. And so, but I realized, a lot of times by the time cancer shows up, it's been there a long time. So it doesn't just pop up like that. It's been there before it actually gave you, the symptom. And so it's like, if it takes a long time sometimes to form, let me give it a chance to go away. And just trust the process a bit. And the timeline definitely kind of takes the pressure off, because now you're not doing this indefinitely. You have a method. And I was monitoring this every couple of months to see how things were doing via ultrasound. And so I felt like I had a very responsible approach to what I was doing that made sense to me.
Yes. That's phenomenal testimony about that. And so that really was your launching zone into this whole area of nutrition. Is that correct?
It was because I was so overjoyed that this worked, and that it wasn't difficult, in that you don't have to climb Mount Everest to find the solution. It really is on your plate, and it really is with your mindset. And, one of the things I was doing, I basically turned my job every day was researching. And I probably did that for like 4 months or more, 5 months, to just like researching. And then I was like, you know what? I have all the information I need. I need to relax and trust more, and just kind of turn off the brain and learn how to just sit back and let it be. And that's when, speaking of vacations, I took a vacation to Mexico. and just to do nothing. And I was sitting by the beach, and that's when the epiphany came to me of what supplements I should do, if I was doing too much. And the whole plan was just like there. And a lot of times we have to learn how to just let go and let be and relax and trust. And that's when you get the answer. But when you're trying to push it so hard and force it so hard, it just doesn't work. And so a lot of what I teach now is really the mindset piece of it, of learning to let go and to you actually use the faith that you claim you have, because fear and faith don't coexist. You choosing one or the other. And so I chose to the faith path and let the fear go and trust that I wasn't going to die and that I was going to be okay, and it's going to work. And that's when, you know, everything kind of fell into place, what I should do. And that's when thyroid started shrinking. And that's when I took charge and got a new doctor and just really took charge of my life and my health. And so that's a big piece of it. It's not just what you're eating, but it's also how you're feeling, what you're thinking, your relationships, and all of that. I quit my job. I just said, whatever I need to do to heal is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, you said another mouthful right there, because you spoke about really the power of resting, right? You spoke about the power of resting and allowing, and that rest is not, we oftentimes think of rest in terms of just sleep, but it's also allowing to have that mindful, just to kind of come at peace there. And it's incredible about when we do that, when we give our body true rest, how our body is able to find the solutions and the answers to the problems. We ever wake up and we remember where we left the keys, or we solve the answer to the questions that we were asking the day before. And so there's power in that mindfulness and that ability to give the body quiet time that's there. And is that really the platform of, is that what you mean by holistic nutrition?
It
or
is.
As a nutritionist?
Absolutely. We look at every piece of it. So diet and nutrition is the foundation, but when we're looking at things holistically, we're not just looking at that. We're looking at stress, which we're talking about here. We're looking at unhealthy relationships that need to be dealt with and answered and things like that. We're looking at habits, exercise. We're looking at sleep. We're looking at, you know, job stress. We're looking at all of those things, because all of those things either help you live better or hinder you in some way. So if I'm giving you just a nutrition plan, but you're having all kinds of crazy things happening in your home, or your job is like really, really, really stressful, and you're not addressing it, you're either not going to follow the plan as you should because you're too stressed, or it's not going to be as effective as it would be if we dealt with these other things. So a lot of times I am really counseling people on how to face a lot of other issues that sometimes can be some of the causes of these illnesses, you know, that our body kind of shows us in another way what we need to do, sometimes through illness. So, and sometimes it's not about what we're eating. It's about, you want to answer out of your life. I mean, I liked engineering, for example, but I didn't love it once I got into it. And I was literally looking for a way out the month before, like, well, what's my exit strategy out of this career that I have planned for myself, that I should be very grateful for because it gives me a great lifestyle, but it's not what I want to do. And when the cancer came, I was like, I'm quitting everything and I'm only doing what I love. And it gave me a way out. And I realized maybe that was part of why it showed up in the first place, to give me that exit, to do what I really, really wanted to do, to have the faith to follow your passion versus just following a path that I think I'm supposed to do. You know, the path of get the job, finish school, get the job, then get married, then do that, which I was like, I don't know if I want to do any of that. So, you know, it gave me an out, and I said, I have the escape hatch, I'm jumping. So I got to recreate my life through this illness. And a lot of times that's why this shows up. And so I created a whole course on how to get out of the life you created and into the one you really want. And you don't have to get cancer to do that. You can just decide today to do it. But it gave me the courage to do it, because after spending like 10 years in school, getting computer science degrees and master's degrees and all this in engineering, and then I'm saying, I just don't want to do that anymore. It seems crazy. And everybody like really started questioning me, my sanity. But I was like, I'm just going to do what I want to do. I only have one life. And the cancer made me face that is this what you're going to do? Or are you going to just go by what you think other people think you should do? Or are you going to go by what you want to do? And let's find out what you want to do.
Call to a life of purpose, and you followed your purpose.
Yeah.
You know, what's interesting is I know Eric talks a lot about, you'll bring up issues as it relates to stress and forgiveness. You know, forgiving oneself. I don't know, Eric, you want to kind of chat on that a bit?
Well, no, yeah, definitely. And I think what you're speaking to is a liberation mindset. I mean, you're right. We've all been, you know, my parents are West Indian. Probably all of us had parents who pressured us to make sure we are very well educated and do well in life. But you do have to be careful not to get pigeonholed into something you don't want to do, because that everyday stress of getting up, putting on your clothes, packing a lunch, or getting in your car and driving in traffic to get to work, to get to a job that you are indifferent about, is an incredible stressor. That is an incredible stressor, because there's no, you want more of a reward, and so it's tough. I mean, it's tough on all of us. I mean, and you know, I'm fortunate. I feel like, you know, I do love medicine, but there, you know, as I'm now at this stage of life, if I had another way to go and do, you know, this kind of work full time, that literally is probably what I would do. You know, so I get that feeling, but if you really don't like what you're doing, that stress is there.
Right. If you're sitting at your desk like I was, like, how do I get out of this? Like just writing things down. Like, what am I going to do? I've got to get out of this office. I cannot stand being here. And the thing is, it's a good job, very well paying, and I had a great boss. But so you feel guilty almost for not and it's not like I didn't appreciate it, but I was like, but I don't want to be here. And so and I also knew that I would never be a great engineer. I was a good engineer, but I wouldn't be great because I didn't love it. And I saw my coworkers who would take these engineering magazines home, and they're reading this and they're doing little engineering projects on the weekend. So they're going to be great. I'm like, I'm not picking up another engineering book. You know, out of here at 5 o'clock. I am not going home to read an engineering book or journal. So I knew that wasn't and I want to be great at what I do. And I said, you know, I was like, you know, by all other standards, I was doing great, but I knew that I could be more if I actually loved it, you know?
And what happens, of course, is that leads to chronic elevation of cortisol. You get stress hormones, and that turns down the immune system. So its ability to regulate mutated cells and rid your body of them goes away. And then you said something earlier, if you feed them with the casein, the milk protein from dairy, you know, now you've got this whole cascade of events that begins to make it make sense that so many people in America wind up having cancer, because there's aspects of lifestyle. And I love what you're saying about like the rest of you, right? We always think of it's just an organic disease. It's all physical. But many people do not put it into the context of the spiritual, the emotional, and the relational, the social part of it.
Right.
But unless you do that, you can't ever get victory.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so powerful when you speak about really this idea of giving of oneself. And so as you made this transition, you obviously decided that part of your mission and your journey and your passion was to help others as you had been helped. Right. And so studies have really shown the power of just that alone, that in individuals. And what's so interesting when they look at studies of individuals, and we always speak about stress, and Eric and I, we speak a lot about stress and its ill effects. You know, racism as stress is stress and it's impacting your body. But the issue when they reviewed literature and seeing that individuals who reported stress had a high burden of mortality. Right. But what's interesting is those who reported stress, but they were more apt to go in and participate in charities, more apt to give of themselves, actually did not die. They actually didn't when they gave of themselves. And so when they were extending themselves out. And so that's what we are called to do. in every instance, and it has a healing effect to our bodies as we're able to go ahead and step outside of ourselves. And I think that that's important and that's powerful. Whereas we look at our transition and the overriding appearance of a holistic. So that's one aspect, is the stress. Tell us about the other things that you touch on in your practice with patients.
Yeah, a lot of times we overlook things like sleep and the importance of that, because that's when the body does most of its healing. You know, when we eat, because if you're eating right before bed, then you're not really resting, and then you're not really giving your body that chance to heal. We talk about, you know, those relationship issues. We talk about exercise, sunlight, meditation, all of those things that all play into it. Of course, we look at, you know, vitamin levels and things like that as well. But everything else that that a general nutritionist wouldn't necessarily be looking at, because that's not what they do. A holistic nutritionist would. Let's talk about what's going on with you. You know, I've had to help people kick people out of their house because they were stressing them so much and they had cancer. And I was like, no, this is your permission slip. You can tell them I said it. They've got to go because you've got to heal, you know, that kind of thing. So we look at all of these different things that affect our health, because we are the sum of everything that we do and that affects us. And so a lot of times we compartmentalize these things, and they're not. You know, there's so many factors. You know, I started reading the books about spontaneous healing and things that happen, you know, with healing with your mind, and how sometimes these things, you know, as I was saying, show up for a different reason. And when you address those issues, then the illness goes away. Oftentimes, you know, sometimes our mental state can bring about illness, and the same way that our mental state can help heal illness. So we talk a lot about that. We also talk about how to deal with fear. When you have a serious illness, how to get rid of that fear, because that's going to not help you heal at all. Those kind of things. So the positive visualization, one of the things that I did, I would visualize cancer leaving my body every day. And I felt like I was having a healing session every day, because basically I'm giving my cells instructions on what to do every day. And that's what happened. You know, what you say, what you think comes to fruition. There are many Bible texts that support that. You know, it's like, you know, what's in your heart comes out of your mouth, and vice versa. So we have to program ourselves for success. And so we talk about how to do that.
My favorite text on that is, life and death is in the power of the tongue.
Absolutely.
Life and death, what you speak will come into existence. So that is
absolutely
very powerful. I got one thing I would love to note, the bridge between engineering and my son is in engineering school at Walla Walla, so it's interesting listening to you, and that the bridge from that to what you're doing now. So like, how did that happen, or what did you know?
That's it was a big leap, and I wasn't even sure how that was going to happen. So, you know, first, engineering is a great foundation, pretty much, I think, for any career, because it teaches you how to think. It gives you that logic of this, what I call closed loop thinking, whereas you have to hit all the points to make this work. If you've ever done computer programming, you know that you can't leave loose ends or the program's going to crash at some point. So it teaches you how to check every box and logically work through a solution, a problem to solution. And so it gives you that foundation that's going to give you the confidence that I can find my way out of this. I can research, I can engineer my way out of anything. When you have that kind of engineering background, you feel very confident in that. And so I worked with like a headhunter. I was like, I want to get out of engineering. I'm not sure what I want to do. Help me to figure this out. And he said, you know, go in and just type in the kind of things that you want to be doing, not your skill sets per se, but I want to be leading, directing, creating. And this job popped up at Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine about, you know, using food as preventative medicine, but talking about how to do that. And I was like, I looked at the description. I was like, oh, this job is for me, but I don't have a nutrition background, but I just healed myself. I've been studying nutrition for nonstop for a year. I know how to promote plant-based living and lifestyles and all of that. And so I just, went for it, and that was like my first. And I basically looked at all the things, the qualifications they're looking for. And I'm like, I've done some of these in many different from the volunteer work I've done, from the professional work. I was able to put together this incredible letter to say, this is why you should give me the job. And I got the job. And I just, I always, it's another thing about mindset. You get what you want, you get what you expect. And I was like, pretty much every job I've, interviewed for, I've gotten. So I was like, all I need is an interview, I get the job. And that's my belief, and that's what happened.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. When you talk about the mindset, and I want to dig into the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine and some of the great work that you did with them in conjunction. But I think it's important for the audience to really touch on this, is that when we measure from a science standpoint, any therapy, we're always measuring it against one thing that we call what? A placebo, right? A placebo saying that we think that there is something that's inactive. It has no value, no benefit. That's there is what we're presuming. And we're saying, does this therapy exceed that level? Is the bare minimum that we set. But we know in every study that placebo group has beneficial effects.
Absolutely.
That's a mindset.
Because they believe it. Exactly.
That's right.
You get what you believe. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that placebo is a combination of your mindset, as you mentioned, that social context of where that patient is coming from, how they perceive the information that's being delivered to them. If they perceive it as if it's going to be harmful, they may be less inclined, plus the body's natural abilities, which is also contextual to like their environment that's there. And so it's huge as you wrap in that layer of placebo. It's really no placebo. It's really no facade. It's really the things that we have difficulty measuring inside of medicine and in science that really aids in our well-being.
Absolutely. That's true. So for people who don't get the whole mindset thing, you just laid it out perfectly. We measure it all the time with the placebo effect. So it's a testament that if you believe it works, it'll work, even if you're taking a water pill or a sugar pill. If you believe it will be. So that was my first jump into it as a nutrition policy manager there at the Physicians Committee. And so I was just able to lay out the skill set that I have, pretty much can apply to anything. And I already had the nutritional background from the self-study. So it was a great fit.
So now you see patients?
I do. Clients.
Talk about how you got there. That's where I'm trying to get to.
Yeah. So I started, people started asking me to speak a lot about, my experience and things like that. And I did have a wealth of information. And so, I had a couple of people say, can you just help me? And so, and I started getting that more and more. And I was like, well, let me formalize this and go get the training and certification in holistic nutrition so that I can, actually have a really solid foundation in terms of the way that I'm helping people. And so I started, getting referrals from folks, from some holistic physician and others who really, wanted their patients to have more support nutritionally. And so that's how it started. And it's just word of mouth referrals, and it just grew from there.
Wow. And where are you now?
I'm in DC, Washington, DC.
All right. I just want to make sure people know where you are if they want to get to your practice.
Absolutely. And, with this COVID thing, I meet everybody virtually. So even before that, I have clients all over the world, literally, and we meet via Zoom. So it really doesn't even matter where you are, because we can connect just like we're connecting right here. So I'm fortunate to have clients from London to all over the place.
Phenomenal.
So tell us about your decision to participate in What the Health, and if that had any impact in the trajectory of your practice. Did you see like an onslaught, or did you see things kind of stymie a little bit, or confusion?
Yeah, no, I was invited, by the directors, and they just heard about me, heard my story. I'm not even sure how. Yeah. So they just contacted me and asked if I would, share my story. And I was, more than happy to do that. And we actually had like filmed it, I think almost 2 years before it actually came out. So it was a long time coming, but it was a lot of work to put that kind of film together, and had no idea that it was going to be like this huge hit that it was.
It was a massive hit, definitely.
Yeah, I had no idea at all. Went to the premiere early before it came out on Netflix. When I saw it the first time, because they let us, see it in advance, I was like, wow, that is a powerful film. And I'm like, I'm not biased because I'm in it, am I? I'm not sure. So, but I was like, this is one of the best films I've seen that lays it out so clearly. And I thought maybe I was just a little biased because I was but no, other people had the same reaction, because when I saw it, I was like, wow, this was so impactful. And so when it hit Netflix, that's when I was deluged with emails and had to bring extra, assistant on board to handle all of that. It was yes, it made a huge difference in
awesome.
in my work, for sure. Yeah, it's great. And I still get emails like every day about people who've seen it and changed their life, changed their diets. I get Instagram messages. I get every day still. People who either want help or have changed immediately. They're like, I was eating chicken when I watched it and I had to put it down. Yeah, so I get emails pretty much every day about that film still. And it's still impacting lives all over the world. And it's not just the US. I mean, I get from all over the world. So yeah,
that's
awesome.
That's wonderful. That's the media of storytelling inside of movies and television. It's powerful. It's powerful. Yeah. It's how we learn and so forth. I definitely want to touch back on your work with kids through Physicians Committee of Responsible Medicine. We know that's important. Do you have kids in your practice? Children? Those?
I do work with children in my practice a lot, and I love working with them because they're so easy and ready to make changes, especially when you explain to them how it makes their body healthier, better. They're like, okay, their kids are easy. I know when you explain to them, when you treat them like the small humans that they are, they get it. And they're like, I've worked with kindergartners, I've had cooking classes for little kids, and I've had them eating coleslaw and hummus like nothing. When you just explain it, and their parents are like looking like they're eating what? It's like when you have them help you make the we call it the green giant smoothies. We're putting spinach and all kinds of stuff in there that they would never eat on their own, but they love it because we're explaining to them how this makes their muscles grow stronger and all this kind of stuff. They're willing and ready to do it, and they respond quickly. So really quick, 2 stories I know working with kids. One kid was diagnosed with ADD, ADHD. We changed the diet, got rid of all the food coloring, all the junk, the Skittles, all that kind of junk out of the diet. Within about 2 to 3 weeks, that ADHD was completely gone. Wow. By just eating a whole food diet, getting rid of the preservatives, saturated oils, the food colorings, completely gone. They were like, this is a different kid. He's doing better in sports. He's no complaints from the teachers. And then another kid was a teenager, and they're like, they're going through their, really that funky phase where they're just antisocial and mean. Yeah. Well, they don't have to be. And so this kid was constipated all the time, eating like chicken nuggets. So I was like, let's just start with the green smoothie every day, put a bunch of junk, healthy junk in there, a bunch of good stuff in there. Within about 3 weeks, she was like, this is a totally different child. He's not spending half an hour in the bathroom anymore. He's like brightened up. He's not angry. This is just adding like green smoothies with a lot of supplements in there. It just changed overnight. It's just like, this is a different kid, in 3 weeks. Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And so you actually, well, first, I mean, you're going to have to come back and tell us what's in this green giant smoothie. So everyone out there can make this green giant smoothie tonight or tomorrow. But now, you participated in a bit of the school lunch program too as well?
Right. So one of the things that I was working on with PCRM when I was there was the National School Lunch Program. And we were working and lobbying to get more plant-based options available in the school lunch program so that kids have this option, and not a mandate, but an option that's healthy, that's plant-based. And so we had a lot of support for it, but we had a lot of people who want the status quo and just don't want to see things change. So it's like, you had senators and things from dairy states where I can't support this bill because, my constituents will get angry. We were asking for an option. We're not saying take it away. But we worked with a lot of schools independently to introduce plant-based options that they were able to do on their own. We were also trying to work with vendors to make these options more available. So we were actually able to, we put together, a cookbook for schools, when you're making really large volumes of foods, they would have tried and true plant-based options that we had already vetted that we know kids liked. We, developed a rollout plan for them to introduce the plant-based options. And sometimes it was so ridiculous where parents would be like, oh my, they were harder to work with than the kids, so we had to educate the PTAs, we're not forcing anything. We're talking about options that are healthier, that still give your kids all the protein they need. So it's, it was fun, but it was challenging to try, to get this passed as a bill. We weren't able to get that bill passed, but we were definitely able to get a lot of work done in terms of helping schools introduce the plant-based options. But when you're talking about bills and lobbying Congress, you're up against so much because there's a huge meat and dairy lobby, but there's not a broccoli lobby. There's not a pinto bean lobby.
Yeah.
Like chickpea lobby, but you have the meat and dairy lobby that's going to fight tooth and nail to keep shoving that down our kids' throat.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I've got some questions for you that we've gotten as a result of your discussion. So one of the questions that we received is, what are your thoughts on the practice of yoga and mindfulness?
I think it's great. I did yoga this morning. I felt so much better. Sometimes I wake up a little grumpy or something, and when you exercise right off, it brings those endorphins right out. Yoga is great because you combine, strength training, relaxation, mindfulness, stretching all in one. It's like the best exercise. So I think it's one of the best things you can do. And then mindfulness, absolutely. Meditation is something I do regularly. It just brings my stress level way down, and just helps me focus on what needs to be done when you just kind of let go. So being mindful of how you think and what you're thinking, you have to monitor your thoughts. So mindfulness helps you do that.
Okay. And Eric, I know that you may not necessarily have the same approach. I know the question kind of did deal with a little bit of like the demonic factor in terms of, how yoga is perceived. So I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Well, I would simply say, the actual physical exercises of yoga is exercise. And if you ever took, like when I used to take weightlifting classes and spin classes at the gym, and at the end to stretch, the poses, the way that they make you stretch are often the poses they take from yoga. The challenge with yoga, if you're a Christian, if you're speaking to Christians, is just you do have to understand that there's a place in yoga, like there is in a lot of parts of our society. And if you go there, there's a different spiritual belief system at its root, right? So if you're doing it to stretch and strength and all of those things, I think there's a place you can kind of be there and it just be kind of like exercise. But there is another place. And I know that because I used to work with some really good yoga instructors in California who told me certain things are like sun worship, which a lot of us probably don't believe in. So I think it's knowing what you're doing and kind of being able to parse it out so that you just do the exercise part of it.
Yeah, and operating in that space. Okay, Columbus.
Just to add to it. So, I want to highlight that there is a ton of research as it relates to some of the power of the stretching. And so there's studies that have shown that just with stretching, how it actually strengthens the vessels and allows increased elasticity, right? So improving the blood flow that's there, which helps strengthen the heart. We know too as well that from the positioning and the breathing techniques that oftentimes are performed throughout yoga, like Dr. Lathan and Dr. Walsh are kind of mentioning from the actual physical practice of it, that you actually heighten your parasympathetic tone, right? And that's the alternate of the stress cascade that's there. So it's extremely beneficial to your system that as you breathe out and that slow, prolonged breathing out, you're actually igniting the parasympathetic, which allows the calming effect. Yes. As we say, that the tend and befriend. So there's extreme power inside of that. We know studies that have pointed to the benefit of mindfulness, like Dr. Lathan has mentioned, and really in terms of the prefrontal cortex. We know that the power that's there. So there's so many layers that are there that are important. So whatever you want to call it in terms of your activity or your approach towards incorporating stretching into your daily activity, simple walking, there's extreme value that's there that will help your immune system, help fight chronic disease, and help your mindset too as well, and connectivity.
Absolutely. And let me say this, and what I've learned with meditation for me, the scripture says, David says, thy word have I hid in my heart that I might not sin against thee. And then he says, I meditate on your word.
Day and night.
And when you study day and night, when you study the Psalms, David doesn't just worship God in the sense that he explodes in church, in front of everybody.
He wasn't dancing naked all the time, you saying?
David sits, he wasn't, stop that. David meditates on the word. In other words, he uses the promises of God as the foundation for what he meditates upon. And that's what I've learned to do. When I go to meditate, I actually take Bible promises. And that is what I don't meditate on myself. I meditate on the word. And then prayer, and then I marry that with prayer. And that will take your stress way down when you understand God's got you. And the words and his word promises you that he does.
Okay. Next question is, what is in that green smoothie?
Yeah, it depends. So yeah, for the kids, it was really simple. So that the green giant smoothies, like spinach, pineapple, green grapes, I think maybe some coconut water, that kind of thing. So you're really trying to get the spinach or the kale in there for the kids. For the other ones, we're looking at, for the teenagers and others, we're loading it up with things like ginger root and turmeric and a green powder that's got like blue-green algae in it, spirulina, those kind of minerals that you really need to hydrate and get all that you need. We're looking at definitely our fruit, our apples, our berries, of course, those kind of things. So there's a lot you can put in there, like sea moss and other things, to really get all the minerals you need, and basically making sure you're hitting all those micronutrients that you need. So those are some of the components: coconut water, and of course your fruit and your things like celery and cucumber. And there's a lot of that is on my website, and I have some videos on some really nourishing green smoothies too. I think I have at least one video on that. So if you go to my website, you can get a lot more details on some good smoothies.
Okay, and I think they are going to stream, your website is streaming below as we are talking. So definitely grab that and go get some more, get some recipes.
Yeah, I have one every day, pretty much. I try to get a smoothie in every day, and I just feel so much better because I hit all those nutrients.
Okay. Now, for everyone, and I'll start with you, Dr. Lathan, in terms of how do you thread the decision to try natural healing versus traditional medicine? And a follow-up to that is, like, for instance, in cancer, is there a stage in cancer where you would not necessarily recommend natural healing?
So I never tell people what to do, for starters. So it's very individual. In some cases, it may be best to do some traditional things immediately, like a surgery or something to get the cancer out of the body. But you can always use natural methods in tandem with that, enhance the body so that it can withstand whatever it is you're going to do. So I work with people who are doing like chemo, but they're also doing natural things to protect their body through that chemo and to come out of it successfully. It's very individual. A lot of times when things are very slow growing, You know, you sometimes have a little more time to allow the natural things to work. And so that is really a good time. But any approach you're going to take, you can include natural healing in that process, regardless. So there's always room for that. It just depends on, you know, your particular state, how healthy you are going in terms of what you should do first.
Okay, Dr. Walsh?
Well, I was gonna say I've had to face this with family members. My mother, when she had multiple myeloma, you know, I wanted her to do a more natural path, but I didn't want her to stop seeing the oncologist. Ironically, my mother was at the same institution where I went to medical school, so I actually knew all the oncologists, or some of them, because I'd gone to medical school with them or seen them while they were in residency. And the truth of the matter is, it very much depends on what is being treated. Dr. Lathan is in some ways fortunate. Thyroid cancer is overall pretty treatable. I mean, the worst case scenario, if you catch it early enough, is you remove the thyroid, you go on medicine for the rest of your life. Not every cancer is like that. Multiple myeloma, you can't just remove it. It is actually in the bone marrow all over the body. And so they were trying things, but to this day, they haven't really mastered treatment of it. But here's what I will tell you. When my mother went to Wildwood, which is in North Georgia near Chattanooga, very similar to Uchee Pines, while she was there and when she immediately came back and followed the plan, she always got better.
Right.
When she drifted back into her little white crackers that Jamaicans like to eat and putting the cheese on it and her condensed milk with her tea and, you know, and I love my mother to death, and she started eating fish again. And, you know, you could watch the numbers go the other way.
Right.
You know, and
that's why a lot of times doctors will say not to do natural methods because they don't believe that people will follow through. Right. And then exactly, they don't think it's sustainable. And if it's not sustainable for you, then it's not going to work. You do have to be all in with it to allow your body to heal.
I also think the other problem for my mother was she was very, very respectful and I'll use a strong word, obedient to what her doctors told her. Because even when it got to the point where they said, okay, we're going to try arsenic as the treatment for your cancer. And I was like, Mom, I'm not sure you should do arsenic. You know what I'm saying? Because if you don't tolerate arsenic well, it's this. And sure enough, arsenic was like the last treatment. She didn't do well after that. So, you know, there's a balance. You know, I think she felt like she could ease up on her natural stuff because she sometimes would give credit to the traditional things when in fact it was the natural thing. So there's a lot of education. And unfortunately, going away to Wildwood or Uchee Pines, as amazing as that is, having, you know, as a system, we need to have people have these types of resources closer to home. And of course, that was before people were Zooming and FaceTiming. So, you know, so in the mid 2000s, had she had that option, maybe she would have stayed connected to them and actually done better. You know, it's all in God's hands, but she, to me, is proof that what Dr. Lathan is saying is true, though, because I watched her improve every time she went whole food, plant-based, and followed that path.
Okay, so this question is for you, Dr. Batiste. How do you get your patients off of medication and on to healthy foods?
So my goal is not to get patients off of medications. My goal is to prescribe, encourage, and inspire healthy lifestyle, right? As a result of adopting this healthy lifestyle, the natural consequence is that, yes, I will have to reduce the medications, right? So if they increase and they load on the therapies that are available and that you can benefit from nutrition, from stress reduction, that you can benefit from exercise, from vitamin D and sunlight, then yes, by consequence, I will not have you stop those things so I can have you stay on the medications, but have you reduce the medications. But here's the thing, just to augment the question before, is that we're all in this battle. And as I brought up earlier, there is a situation that we know that exists. We know that people basically have a situation where in your life, you're fighting cancer right now. I believe wholeheartedly, as I look and review literature, that there is no magical prevention. There's only intervention. That means right now, as we sit here, the only thing that's different between Dr. Lathan, Dr. Walsh, me, and you is the fact she knows she had cancer. We don't know that we have these microscopic cells, so we think we have this false sense of confidence. that
Not a
I'm
full
okay.
diagnosis. We just haven't
Correct.
received the official diagnosis.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you can't. So we're saying that I'll put it off for tomorrow on my future self. I'll make a change next Tuesday. I'll make it after the holiday. I'll make it after the summer months. And we have to really implore ourselves and our family members for support and reach out to professionals like Dr. Lathan to really move ourselves towards a state of health that can help transform our lives.
Let me say this real quick. A friend of mine, a physician in his early 30s, started having melena, which is digested blood in his stool. So he had an upper gastrointestinal bleed from his stomach. Early 30s now, just married, and he was happened to be out of town when it happened. Went into the hospital because he knew what he was seeing when he was going to the bathroom. Turned out he had a pretty serious cancer of the stomach. Is going to have to go through chemo, and so I mean, it just blew a lot of our minds that are friends with this person. But it shows you that what Dr. Batista is saying is true. You know, how long has he had that? I mean, if you were able to biopsy his stomach 3 years ago, you might have found evidences of this a long time ago. So it is a scary thing from that perspective. But I think, Dr. Lathan, you give a lot of hope. Yes. You give a lot of hope because it's not just that you're a cancer survivor. Your mind is so sharp. Your skin is so clear. You know, you just look so healthy. So it's not that you survived like by the skin of your teeth. Right. It's like you really beat cancer. You punched cancer in the nose, knocked it out, and are now able to help other people. So you know, it's inspiring, honestly, to hear your story, especially like I said, with all the people in my family that have not made it through cancer. It's really powerful to hear someone give such a spiritual, holistic testimony about surviving cancer.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. No, that's extremely powerful. That's extremely powerful. I mean, I think that's the issue, is really giving hope. And I think if there's nothing else, that you've instilled in us the power of hope, the power of the even beyond, as you know, and Eric brings this up an awful lot, is that starting outside the kitchen, right? Is that oftentimes we think, oh, okay, what I got to do to transform my kitchen? You've really outlined from your dealing with stress, of the mindfulness, of getting peace, of changing your circumstances, all those things that played as equally a role in your transformation as the food did. Absolutely. And that's powerful. That's powerful. That's powerful. Okay, so give us the top 3 recommendations you are wanting to give to the audience, and to tell the audience going forward on really taking care of themselves, beating their disease or preventing their disease from that they don't know they have.
Right. Well, first I say eat green. So what I mean by that is really just think about every meal, what green am I getting in? Because a lot of us are just deficient in getting enough vegetables in, and really those are the healing things, the greens, the onions, the garlic. I ate like 8 cloves of garlic a day during my healing process. So, you know, I still eat a lot of garlic. I don't eat 8 cloves a day, but I still eat a lot of garlic. But I'm always looking at, where am I getting my greens? I'm getting my greens at breakfast in my smoothie, or if I'm eating savory, I'm going to get a side of spinach, you know, whatever. Greens at every meal. So just think about that for starters. Where am I getting my greens, and making those the center, and working everything else around the green, instead of what's meat is for dinner, what green is for dinner, and everything else goes around that. I would say, you know, that's number 1. 2, it's like you really have to drink a lot of water. Most people are dehydrated. So when you drink water, you get those toxins out, you get everything out, things work better, your mind is sharper, you know, get rid of the constipation, all of that kind of thing. You just really, people are just really not drinking enough water. So about half your body weight in ounces of water, I would say, is to do that. And then 3 is to really take time out for yourself, to take care of yourself. So whatever that means to you, you know, if that means going for a massage, if that means going outside every day, whatever it is that makes you feel like you're taking care of yourself, getting your sleep, putting yourself first in your mind, so that if you're taken care of, then you can take care of other people better. And a lot of times we put everybody else in front of ourselves, and then we're left with nothing. And then that's when the illness pops up. And then now everybody has to take care of us. And so let's not do that. Let's take care of ourselves. Everybody's in charge of their own happiness. Take care of yourself first, and then share everything else with the world. You cannot give from that empty cup, which we often try to do.
I dropped because my battery went out, but I think I heard her say we should go to Cabo. I think, did I? I'm sorry, is that what she said, to take our vacation?
That does bring up a good point. Part of the importance is that you get the screening that you need. Go into your doctors, have your ears checked, have your eyes checked, have your heart checked to make sure you're healthy. That's important too as well, Jeanette. All right.
I think she's got a patient in Fiji. Is that what I was?
I co-sign on Fiji. Yeah.
Well, I think we're wrapping up right now, and so Dr. Walsh, you want to give some love to Dr. Lathan, and as we close things out here.
Yeah, this was just phenomenal. I'm actually going to be in touch, Dr. Lathan. I want to stay in touch. Very proud of you. Probably last time we really spoke was at Oakwood, honestly. And,
probably. That's a long time ago. Yeah.
It's good to see how well you've done and the powerful impact that you're having.
Yeah. Well, I say the same of you. It's been great to see you doing great as well. So I'm just happy to join you guys this evening. It's been great.
Thank you.
Yeah, we definitely truly appreciate you coming on with us. My first time meeting you, and I'm appreciative, although I was there at the same time at that HBCU with you. You know, this has been powerful. I think it's one area that I didn't actually identify this was going to be an area that we were going to touch on, which is the power of hope, the power of placebo, the power of everything else outside. And I think you encapsulated it so well just in your story. And there's so many points that are there that got my mind just jumping and excited. So this was wonderful for me to hear. Your story is powerful, and I'm looking forward to future collaborations with you. Much success, though, going forward.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a pleasure to chat with you all this evening. It's been great to meet you, and I'm happy to see the work you're doing, and this whole project is awesome. So I'm just happy to share a few minutes with you guys this evening. It's been great.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Yes. To all those out there who tuned in, remember to like the page, like us on YouTube, share this with someone that you love, right? This can be life-changing, not only for you, but for someone else. Dr. Lathan's story, go to her website, go on social media, follow her, and blow her up. Blow her up. Her next show, I want you to talk about, man, I went on slave food and it's just been going berserk is what I want to happen for her. But we're gonna take a hiatus, but we will be back. So we're gonna be back in next several weeks. And what we plan on bringing to you in next several weeks is we're gonna be joined by the former president of the American College of Cardiology, Dr. Ken Williams.
Awesome.
Ken Williams. And so we're looking forward to another great conversation as we go into April, and we're looking at National Minority Health Awareness Month. And so looking forward to Dr. Williams, and then later on in the month, Dr. Michael Greger is who we'll have in follow up there. But right now they have tall work ahead of them after Dr. Lathan. So we're looking forward.
Columbus, speaking to the schedule, we're doing the first and third Fridays of each month going forward. Is that correct?
Generally, except for April. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so all right, perfect. So please mark your calendars for the first and third Fridays. Look out for our slave food notifications, and this is when you'll be seeing us on a consistent basis. So thank you for your continued support.
All right.